If you're running Google Ads and still asking yourself, how many campaigns do I need? What campaign types should I use? And how should my campaigns be structured? Then this video is for you, because today I'm going to share the current best practices when it comes to Google Ads campaign structure. You will not just learn the basics, you will get an entire decision-making framework teaching you how to think about your campaign structure based on your specific situation. Everything I share with you in this video is not just theory. This is how we are actually structuring campaigns for our clients at ROImonks, the performance marketing agency where I work. And I even prepared a real case study of how we recently tweaked the campaign structure for one of our clients, which led to significant performance improvements, and I will share it with you in this video. So let's begin. As you might know, the hierarchy of Google Ads starts with your account at the top. Your account consists of campaigns, and your campaigns consist of ad groups and asset groups. In addition, on Google Ads, you have different campaign types, and different campaign types are really geared towards different goals. To help you visualize your campaign structure, I think it's most helpful to think about it in a way of a typical marketing funnel. At the top, you have the largest part, which is the awareness stage of the funnel. Lower, you have consideration, and at the bottom of the funnel, you have the performance or conversion part. For today, we're going to ignore the retention and advocacy part of the funnel. So within this funnel framework, your search, performance max, and shopping campaigns are at the bottom of the funnel at the performance level, meaning that these campaigns are responsible for converting existing demand into sales or leads. Your retargeting and brand campaigns also go here. In the middle of the funnel, we have demand gen and display campaigns, targeting high intent in-market audiences, purchase lookalikes, and so on. At the top of the funnel, we put demand gen as well as video campaigns with broader targeting more inspirational and educational intent. Unfortunately, due to budget constraints and sometimes brand maturity, it's not realistic for most businesses to structure an account like this. If you're new to Google Ads or you're advertising for a small to medium-sized business, you need to focus all your attention at the bottom of this funnel. That's the core and the foundation of your account. You need to build and optimize campaigns that are able to convert a demand that already exists in the market. There is no point in trying to generate demand if you're not able to convert it later. Then, for companies with large ad budgets and mature brands, you should also be investing in middle of the funnel demand gen and display campaigns, where you still are going to target high intent audiences, but you're focusing the budget beyond Google search and shopping placements and reaching these high value audiences on other placements as well, like YouTube, Display Network, Discover, Gmail. For enterprise level businesses, you should be investing in some awareness campaigns as well, reaching even broader audiences, educating them about your products, services, and your brand. Now, with this framework of the funnel in place, how many campaigns should you actually have at each level of the funnel? Should you use a more consolidated campaign structure or a more segmented campaign structure? To answer this question, first of all, for now, let's focus entirely on the bottom of the funnel, since this is where over 90% of advertisers are. And here it's important to separate your branding and your non-branding campaigns. Let's first talk about non-branding campaigns. The optimal number of non-branding bottom of the funnel campaigns obviously depends on your actual product or service catalog. Usually campaigns are organized around product categories or services. So if your product or service catalog is large and diverse, you might need to consider a structure with more campaigns. Factor number 2 is your conversion volume. Keep in mind that you need 15 to 30 conversions per campaign per month for smart bidding to optimize effectively, but the more the better. 15 to 30 is just the bare minimum. So if you're working with a small budget and with a limited conversion data, you should steer towards a more consolidated approach, meaning fewer campaigns. Factor number 3 is your margins. As you know, at the campaign level, you set your budget and your bidding strategy. And this is important because if you have two different product categories or services that have different margins, let's say one has a margin of 20% and another has a margin of 40%, obviously you cannot set the same bidding target for these two completely different product categories, which means you cannot put them in the same campaign. Also, if prices of your certain products or services are on completely different levels, for example, Rolex watches and Casio watches, you probably should not group them together in the same campaign because they have completely different unit economics and margins, even though they might be from the same or highly related product categories. Finally, factor number 4 is your actual business goals, because your business goals will determine the campaign type, campaign goal, and bidding strategy. If you have several business goals, you will need more campaigns. Now, in addition to all these non-branding search and performance max campaigns at the bottom of the funnel, you also have branding campaigns here. And this is another very important part of your campaign structure. A dedicated search branding campaign is a must for all accounts, unless absolutely no one is bidding on your brand terms and you already score number 1 organically for your main brand terms. But usually, in the context of competitive markets and broad AI-driven targeting, this is probably not the case for you. And a branding performance max campaign is optional. I've seen it work for some accounts and it doesn't work for others. So it's highly situational and it needs to be tested. But whether you're using search branding campaign, performance max branding, or both, all the rest of your non-branding campaigns at the bottom of the funnel must exclude branded searches from them, either via negative keyword list for search or via brand exclusions feature on Performance Max. And you need to do this in order to ensure a clear separation between your non-branding and your branding campaigns, to make sure that your non-branding campaigns don't dip into your branded searches and your branded traffic. Now, with all these factors that will influence your campaign structure in mind, I think it's the perfect time to share a case study about consolidation and how sometimes consolidating your campaigns can deliver much better results. In this account, we had several Performance Max campaigns, but some of them weren't receiving enough conversion events to optimize effectively. So we decided to consolidate the campaigns that weren't getting 30 conversions per month. Specifically, both campaigns that we consolidated were getting about 15 conversions per month. And which is also really important, both campaigns advertised product categories with similar margins and similar price points, which is an important consolidation requirement that I mentioned earlier. We paused the two original campaigns and launched a completely fresh Performance Max campaign that combined all the asset groups from both old campaigns. We started with a maximize conversion value bidding strategy and ran it for about 3 weeks. Then we switched to target ROAS bidding strategy. As you can see here, this brought the spending down initially, but both the conversion value to cost and the total conversion value improved significantly after we switched bidding strategies. And now the spending is climbing back up in a healthy way. Here in this Looker Studio report, we combined and visualized the performance of all 3 campaigns together. You can see this vertical line marks the point of consolidation. To the left of this line, we have 2 original campaigns, and to the right, we have the new consolidated campaign. As you can see, since the consolidation, the cost has remained relatively the same, while conversion value and conversion value to cost went down initially. But since we switched to target ROAS bidding strategy here, as you can see, both conversion value and conversion value to cost improved significantly, despite the cost going down initially. But now the cost is picking back up and is now trending to the upside. And of course, when we dug in at the asset group and product levels, we also saw that Google is able to effectively distribute spending across different asset groups and different product types. And now the new consolidated campaign is receiving enough conversion data, about 40 conversions in the last 30 days, which allows smart bidding to optimize much more effectively, which led to improved performance. So this is a perfect example of how a more consolidated campaign structure can work better for you when you're working with limited conversion data. On the other hand, if you have enough conversion data, meaning well over 30 conversions per campaign per month, ideally much more, look inside your campaign and check if there are any ad groups that have very high conversion value to cost relative to the rest of ad groups, yet they have low search impression share. It means that these ad groups are highly valuable and there is a lot of room for them to grow. So you might benefit from taking them out of this campaign and giving them their own bidding target and budget and trying to scale them in this way. Now that we've discussed how to group your campaigns, let's dive inside your campaigns. How many ad groups and asset groups should you have inside your search and performance max campaigns? Search ad groups should be built around search themes. When working with a small budget, you should focus on a small number of the most important and highly profitable search themes for your business. I would say between 5 and 10. Once you have the budget to scale, you can expand your search targeting to more ad groups. But if you're working with a large budget, you're free to test as many ad groups as makes business sense for you. But one important agency tested tip to keep in mind here is that you shouldn't have multiple ad groups pointing to the same landing page. Keep it at one landing page per ad group. When it comes to your branding search, inside your branding search campaign, you would generally have an ad group focused on your generic brand terms, maybe an ad group focused on a certain variation of your brand name, an ad group focused on searches related to your brand reviews, a separate ad group focused on your brand discount code searches, a separate ad group focused on your brand terms related to a specific product or service category, and so on and so forth. The key point is that all keywords in the same ad group should be under the same search theme. Some keywords will be added over time, others will be paused. It's an ever-evolving part of your campaign management. So when you're just launching a campaign, just add several relevant, high-intent ones with good volume and affordable CPC from your keyword research to each ad group and refine them from there. When it comes to the number of ads per ad group, in general, I recommend using just one responsive search ad per ad group, especially if you're working with a small budget. If you want to run a split test at the ad level, you can add a second ad to test a specific ad variation. And when it comes to Performance Max, even though this campaign type is much more automated and shopping dominant, the goal of your asset group is essentially the same as your ad groups, which is to match specific creative assets and products with your targeting audience. So in this way, the logic of your asset group structure should also be based around search themes or your product or service categories, so that you can define your targeting audience signals and provide highly relevant headlines, descriptions, images, products, and so on for these specific audiences. One mistake that I commonly see advertisers make when it comes to Performance Max campaigns is segmenting their asset groups by audience, which is not ideal because audience targeting in Performance Max is not strict, meaning that these targeting options on Performance Max are just signals. Google is going to go beyond your targeting signals anyway, so you're better off not segmenting asset groups by audience, but instead putting all the different audience signals that are in the market for a specific product or service in the same asset group It's okay for an asset group to have multiple different audience signals. Just make sure that your assets and landing page are relevant to these audiences and their search intent. And of course, the same budget considerations that we discussed for search ad groups also apply to Performance Max, meaning that smaller budget accounts should lean towards fewer asset groups. So we've covered search and Performance Max campaigns at the bottom of the funnel, both branding and non-branding, but we also have retargeting campaigns here. Let's keep this brief because the structure here is really straightforward. For retargeting campaigns, we typically use a combination of a retargeting demand gen campaign and a retargeting display campaign. The reason we use both is that demand gen campaigns often don't spend enough on display placements, so having both ensures better coverage. The primary goal is to retarget your website visitors as they are your hottest audience. You can also retarget video viewers or people who have engaged with your content in other ways, but website visitors will almost always be your most valuable retargeting audience. Now, if you're looking for a simple approach, you can just have one ad group in each retargeting campaign, targeting all your website visitors. However, if you have the capacity and sufficient data, the optimal approach is to segment your retargeting campaigns into multiple ad groups. Each ad group would target different visitors to a specific part of your website, maybe a specific category page or specific product pages, organized around a certain theme. This way, you can deliver highly relevant ads tailored to each specific audience segment based on what they were actually looking at on your site. Just keep in mind that each retargeting audience needs at least 100 active visitors for it to start serving. So if you have any low traffic pages, then there is no point in creating a separate retargeting ad groups for them because those audiences will not serve anyway. When it comes to your middle of the funnel and top of the funnel campaigns, the structure is much more situational. However, the logic is the same as with the bottom of the funnel. At the campaign level, you group your campaigns by campaign type, campaign goal, and bidding strategy. And at the ad group level, your goal is to match your target audience or customer personas with highly relevant content and landing pages tailored to this specific customer persona, targeting their pain points, using their emotional language, using their emotional triggers, and so on and so forth. When you're just starting out with the middle of the funnel and top of the funnel campaigns, focus your attention on your most important product categories and your most valuable customer personas first. Once you've found a creative strategy that works and you have the necessary budget for it, you can consider expanding to additional categories or personas in middle and at the top of the funnel. A couple of key requirements here is that first, when it comes to non-retargeting demand gen, you should aim at spending $100 per demand gen ad group per day at least. This is an official Google recommendation. Second, you need high-quality creative assets to make these campaigns effective. Unlike bottom of the funnel campaigns, where you're capturing existing demand and you can get away with not focusing on high-quality video and image content, these campaigns higher in the funnel rely heavily on compelling visuals, good storytelling, emotional triggers, and so on. So running successful middle and top of the funnel campaigns will require some investment in creative production as well. And this is it. This is how you structure your campaigns in your Google Ads account in 2026. I really hope you found this video valuable. If you did, please support it with a like, a comment, and a subscription. These videos take a lot of work and I do all the editing myself, so I would really appreciate it if you show your support. If you need help with your Google Ads campaigns or you're interested in performance marketing agency services, check out ROImonks. I will leave their links in the description. Thank you so much for watching up to this point. I will see you in the next one.